All right, hello, welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B, out of the studio today in quarantine. So if our video is a little off, that's why, but we're doing the best we can. I'm on my tablet today, so we'll see how it goes. No big agenda. We still don't have sports back, but the big news out of Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger says he is throwing again. And I don't know if you saw the video, Matt. He doesn't really throw in the video. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Because they announced it, and it's very similar. I had the same beef with the original video that they released in, was it January or February? So they hype up that he's throwing the football. And it was like a 10-second clip of him in a gym with a guy like 5 feet away. This video shows him dropping back, shows him go through the motions. As soon as he goes to throw the ball, it cuts to the receiver catching it. The way it's cut, you have no idea. Was it a 2-yard pass? Was it a 10-yard pass? We don't actually see the pass. It could have been a Peyton Manning duck out there. So I hate to sound negative, but for the people that are really excited right now about the Steelers season coming back because Ben's back, until I actually see him throwing the ball down the field, I'm going to remain worried. And so I don't know what your thoughts on that, but it's early. I think he was with, who was he out there with? Switzer, Juju, and James Conner, I believe. And then Conner went on the Adam Schefter podcast, and I tried to catch some of that, and he was saying that, I mean, Ben's back, blah, 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 they're working out with him. And then the rest of the thing was him making a big deal about getting a haircut. He said he wasn't going to get a haircut. He wasn't going to shave his beard until he was able to throw the football. And, I mean, like, Matt, a 2-year-old kid can throw a football. I want to see him throw the football down the field, and I didn't see it in the video, so I don't get the hype.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it was that big of a deal to get your haircut. Clearly over quarantine, I trimmed down my beard, so the world didn't end.
Well, it was crazy. There's still supposed to be a lockdown in place, and yet he's out on the field throwing the ball with teammates and a camera crew. Because let's be real, that video was professionally done. It was all cut up and stuff. It wasn't one of the receivers taking that footage and clipping it up himself. And then in the barbershop, multiple guys, no face masks. I'm not even talking about the quarantine stuff, but it was just really weird and felt like...
But where was he when it wasn't in Pittsburgh, I don't think.
Wasn't it? They named the high school. It was at some high school, I think. And then they named the barbershop, too. Like, it was almost like an ad drop. Like, yo, hey, just so you know, I went to get my haircut here. But you could be right. They might not have been in Pittsburgh. They might have been somewhere else. And so maybe the rules are different. I honestly don't know. I just thought that it was weird and a little bit out of touch to pump a guy's return. And then you hype it up saying, like, he's throwing the ball. Check out this video. I watched it 5 different times just to see if I missed something. Or, like, maybe that I would see something a little bit more. But I didn't see anything. It showed maybe 2 passes, 3 passes. And it was just his throwing motion. And it cuts right when he's going to throw. So you don't know. And then it shows it's cut right to the receiver catching it. So it's not like, I know they're trying to get you hyped up, but it wasn't something that I was excited about seeing.
Well, to me, the thing that would be more exciting is to know definitively that there was a mini camp coming up, that there was something. So, I mean, even though, you know, we don't know what the future is going to hold, it looks promising. And when you look at some of the states that are planning on opening up, like I believe Texas was planning on having things opened up, Georgia, there were a couple other states that they're moving forward with their schedules. And, I mean, the president of West Virginia said even if he had to tape his own ankles up, they were going to be playing football in the fall. So, I mean, you have some states that are doing it, and you have other ones that are, like in California, where they're saying they're not even going to have students on campus for most of the fall semester. So I think it's such a mixed message between who's doing what. That I'm starting to have some concerns as to how things are going to play out come fall.
Well, I mean, I think we talked about the Ohio State matchup. They have one in Oregon, so they have to go to the West Coast. And then if they're not going to come back, Notre Dame announced that they're going to be back August 10th. I think if you see college football played, that traditionally starts earlier, then the NFL is not going to have a problem. The problem comes in if college football delays, and then they're kind of like pointing at the NFL and they're saying, your move. Because you have it right now. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. You have hockey. They're talking about expanding right now. I don't know if you saw this proposal, but traditionally I think there's 16 teams in the playoffs. They're talking about doing 24 teams. And I think they had it figured out where, was it? I don't even know what they were going to do, but the first round to figure out the last 4 teams in is going to be like a round robin with those additional teams. So they're adding 8 teams, and then they're going to pull in another 4 or 8, and they're going to do like a round robin, kind of like the World Cup, where whoever wins those rounds, just because I think, was it Columbus is only a point ahead or back? And so like if they cut it off right now, you really can't say definitively, oh, well, there were a couple of games left. They might have lost those games. Like, you don't know. Because those teams were playing them. It's not fair. So I like the idea that they're going to do that. But at some point, you have to just make the call. Same with the NBA. They're going back and forth. And they're saying like, yo, we're not going to play. We're going to skip. And then LeBron stepped out and said, yo, I'd rather play. No one I talk to wants to skip. And so next thing you know, it's going to be June. It's going to be July. When are you going to play? You're either going to have the championship or not. I told you, I think they said they could get the hockey, the opening round, that round robin thing done in like 10 days. So like, let's say they started June 1st of that. You're going to have to put a playoffs in place where maybe you're getting rid of travel. And if you're still going to have the full rounds for the other ones, how can you really compress that to the point where you're going to be done in a month or 2 to get ready for next season? Unless you're pretty much throwing out the start of next season like they had talked about, and maybe they start in December. Because normally the playoffs run from April, May, and finish in June. That's 3 months. If you add another round at the beginning of June, you're going June, July, August. And you're going to have a turnaround to start of next season. It just doesn't make sense. Even baseball, they've been talking about getting their vote in. Is it going to happen? Because till you wait, you kind of had spring training, but those guys haven't been playing. You haven't been seeing live balls. Have you seen the beginning of spring training? It's pretty rough on a lot of guys. And yet you're going to have them just come right back and that's it? Like these games count for your stats? It's going to be rough all around, but it's kind of like everyone's playing chicken and they're just waiting to see who's going to make the first move. I think once one league does it, the rest will open up. So,
and I think it looks promising because it started with the UFC, and I mean, to me, if you have the guys that are willing to like physically be touching each other and hitting each other and grappling, that if they're willing to get in the cage and fight, then baseball should be fine. Playing outside, playing in space, like it should be a no factor.
Well, the thing really comes down to is who are you testing? Are you testing the players? I saw some players said that they were going to hold out for baseball because they weren't going to guarantee that stuff. In UFC, they're testing the fighters, and if they don't, or if they come back positive, they're kicking them out. That's why I think basketball should have been the first one to make that move, because you only have to test a handful of guys. You only need a couple refs, and you could play the games. You tested them, and you could have it. I mean, we've all seen basketball tournaments. You could put the teams in, get 50 tests, and have 4 teams there, and a couple refs, and do back-to-back doubleheaders. Just 2 different teams, kind of like the NCAA tournament does, where they do like rounds. Keep them at the same site, because once you test them, you don't have to test them again, because I believe, and I hope I'm not wrong, but I think they're testing for antibodies now. So they'll know if you had it before or anything. So the tests have gotten that good. So once you're there, you have 4 teams in an arena and you just play all weekend. Or you do 5 teams, 6 teams, like whatever you can get to fit in and even it out and just do regional sites that have been talking about it the entire time. If you're doing playoffs, just try to line it up. Do it like the NCAA tournament. Find a neutral site that's open, maybe not a lot of contact with other people. Bring catering, food in, whatever you need to do. And just have them stay there for a weekend and just play 2 games, take a day off, 2 games, take a day off, whatever you need to do. Because I think that's where it gets into, like with baseball, you have, 26 guys on a roster, and then that's one team. I mean, that's basically for basketball. If you're only testing the guys that need to be there, that's that's one matchup. So for one baseball team, you could test an entire game of people for NBA. And so that's what I would like to see. If they're going to be the ones to jump in, it makes the other sports a little bit easier. The way hockey was talking, if they could get a site, like if they would go to North Dakota or one of the Dakotas, wherever they have the hockey rink set up, test them on the way in, and once they're there, no one leaves or no one gets in without getting retested, then I think that's another scenario. You don't have to test every time. It's just finding something that you agree on, getting the payments in place. Baseball, they've said that after the players started to say they weren't going to sign, the owners came back and said that they're going to lose games if they play without fans. Or lose money, I mean. Because the way they're looking at it is you have so many ticket sales to pay for these salaries. That's one chunk of the revenue. I don't know if it's going to be as drastic as what they said. I mean, maybe you're losing so much in corporate sponsorships for the boxes. I could see that possibly hurting, but even then, to be running $1 million negatives every game just doesn't seem like it made sense. But I don't know. That's just me.
I almost think that in those situations where you have the boxes, that's an easier way to kind of do somewhat social distancing, to be able to have like the people that are in their own box and they're not on top of each other, that they could still have some fans in the stands and being able to kind of do it that way too. And that was something that we didn't talk about before, but that's something that makes sense. And also when you start to look at some of the TV things, if they start broadcasting those games and getting some of that money, I don't know that impact would be as rough as what they would make it out to be.
That's what I'm wondering too, because right now they're talking about losing the revenue from that. But if they went and did a bid for Fox Sports and ESPN that are playing all these replays and said, like, look, ESPN, normally you don't show baseball at 7 p.m. on Saturday, but there's nothing else on right now for you to show. So we'll give you that at this price to make up for the gate. And I think they would pay it. Look, you're putting billions of dollars in basketball that you're not getting a return on. I don't see ESPN paying that contract out until the NBA comes back. And so baseball could just jump right in, and they're not going to get the TV sponsorships, the ads. I think that it makes sense for everyone for them just to show as much as they can. And they might even get some regular over-the-air games that you don't see much anymore. Like back in the 90s, they used to always be on like PBS or whatever the actual over-the-air channel was for free. Once ESPN started to gobble up a bunch of those rights and everything moved to cable with Fox Sports and NBC Sports and then CBS Sports, like they all got their cable networks, you didn't see it anymore. Like only one game, I think what Fox does, the Saturday game at 4. But back in the day, like they used to always be on. But we'll see. It's going to be something that I just think needs to happen at some point. Otherwise, what's the point of talking about it? We talked about the Big Ten, circling back on them. There was speculation where like James Franklin came out and said, hey, we should just play with whoever wants to play, which means that through the back channels, he heard that some schools might not play. And guess what? All of the Big Ten, it came out that all 14 teams are ready to play the season this year. So whatever teams were hesitant, they got scared off. And I think that's why Notre Dame stepped up and said, like, yo, we're going to be back on campus August 10th, and we'll be ready to play. Like, it might push the start of the season, but I don't know what else you can do, because if that's just regular campus coming back, you could still have the team meet somewhere else. And so I don't even know if that would affect their training camp at all.
Well, I know with Notre Dame, they're actually doing something. I forget where I was reading this today, but they're doing something where they're going to bring everyone on campus and basically just have one giant, no break. They're just going to go straight through from August to Thanksgiving in November. And then from Thanksgiving break, that's just going to be the end of their semester. They'll be done from Thanksgiving break and come back at the beginning of the new year. So that it limits the amount of contact that people have, because when they go home for Thanksgiving break and they're around people, it's not going to be where they're going to be home and then coming back to campus and then coming back out for Christmas. So it's going to eliminate some of that contact they're having with people. They're just going to do it in one shot to have that being done.
And maybe they're hoping that they have a test where they can just test people coming on campus and that fast where you get the result back right away, or at least soon, so that you can just kind of quarantine in your own dorm room or whatever until they get that result, and then they move the next person in. I mean, there could be processes by that time. We're talking months away.
But, the other thing, looking positively, I know we hit on this before, was that for all the hype that was surrounding Liberty and with President Falwell saying that he was going to allow students to be on campus, you haven't seen a negative impact of the students being permitted to be on campus and doing things like that. So they were fully expecting to just proceed as planned. They didn't have a spike in cases. They showed that they were able to restrict. I think they had a very few number of people that had it, and it was like online students that were coming onto campus and professors that weren't on campus that were the ones the few cases that they did have. So they did show that they were able to limit the amount of the spread, and it wasn't going to be this massive spike of new cases because of having people in that environment. So I think it's promising when you're looking at the numbers that it can be done. But I think the first thing that has to happen is people have to just stop being so worried.
Yeah, I hate talking about it, to be honest. It just has to, we need sports to come back so we have something else to talk about on the show. I do have one other thing. I forgot to bring it up at the beginning. But did you see James Harrison come out with, it was last Thursday, he said on some other show or something, some interview, he said that Mike Tomlin gave him an envelope for a hit that he put on, basically saying that he got paid to get ejected, or Tomlin paid his fine, which I'm pretty sure is against NFL rules. Your head coach just can't pay your fine. That was the entire Bounty Gate scandal with the Saints, wasn't it? He was giving him extra money, but still.
Well, he was putting it. Part of it was that they were putting money out to physically go out and hurt people. In this situation, it's a little bit different. That he had the hit and was ejected and received the fine, but then because it was an aggressive play, Tomlin was supposedly willing to just give him the money for the fine.
Yeah, but he didn't say that's what he paid him. He just said he gave him an envelope, which made it seem like he got paid. But we don't know what was in the envelope. Was it $50? Was it like a late birthday card? We don't know, Matt. He was just going over the top with it. It's the bad blood. I mean, we talked about it when we went to New England. There's definitely bad blood there. And for him to come out now and bring that up, why bring it up now?
Why bring it up ever? Unless you're an asshole.
Yeah, that was under the table, obviously. You're bringing it up while the guy's still coaching. There's zero point to doing it unless you were trying to, if it was a big deal, bring it up when you went to New England. You just didn't want to get in Belichick's doghouse for doing something because you knew that was an asshole move. I agree with you. There's zero reason for you to ever bring that up. I mean, I could see, if you were both retired, they're not going to come back and, take wins away. But Tomlin's still coaching just because you're out of the league. And to be honest, I don't know what Harrison's doing. Was he trying to be a coach, or why would anyone even hire you at that point whenever you put your name attached to this? I'm not sure what he's up to these days, but it's the way he went out and now what he's trying to do, it's just getting worse and worse. At some point, just cut the ties. No one cares.
Yeah, I agree. When I heard the story, I didn't. My initial reaction to it was that I didn't think that it was a bounty type situation. I think it may have just been that if it was an aggressive hit, that if he received money for it, that it was I'm willing to take that fine. I'm willing to pay this money for you to cover the cost of whatever this fine was going to be, because it was, not a dirty play, but you kind of say, if you're being aggressive, I'm willing to accept certain penalties or certain things. That to be respectful, he should have just shut his mouth. Whether it happened, whether it didn't, be appreciative and don't make a big deal about it. And I think that's every opportunity to do the right thing, he hasn't.
That's true. I mean, you're kind of cutting your ties with the NFL at that point, and I don't see any reason like anyone would even want to associate with you if you're going to come out firing like that, like the way he did. That's just my take. I mean, I don't know. I had one other NFL thing. Jameis Winston got LASIK surgery, and now he said...
Yeah, we talked about it.
Did we? No, we didn't, because it came out Wednesday. We did talk about it on the show. We've
talked about him getting eye surgery for a long time.
No, he said he can see street signs now, Matt. We've never talked about that on the show.
Yes, we have.
I don't know about that.
That's because you don't pay attention whenever there's anything that's Florida State related.
I think you just don't want to talk about how bad his vision was. You're deflecting.
His vision was perfect when he was shredding Auburn for a national championship.
I don't know if we go that far. They were losing pretty bad at the beginning.
Yeah, because their former coach was stealing signals.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was confirmed.
Sure.
Read the article.
You read the article. Was it Major League Baseball now?
Yeah, you can read. They were banging on trash cans. And you know what? It didn't work. We still got the win.
Hey, we'll see if it helps him out. I don't have anything else then. At least now.
The other thing was NASCAR came back.
Did it start? I honestly missed it.
I actually, for the first time in a long time, I actually watched part of the NASCAR race.
I was going to say, don't even say the first time ever, because I know you've watched NASCAR races pretty frequently.
Well, I have been in the room where races have been on, but this was the first time that while the race was going on, I gave somewhat of an effort, as opposed to pleading to try to change the channel. And I was happy to see that they were getting back out, that they were doing things to try to move in the direction of getting the sports back. So it was nice to actually have some live sports and being able to watch something that's not a repeat from the early 2000s.
Well, did they have golf on? I feel like they've had some golf, but I can't tell what's a replay and what's not.
I'm not a senior citizen. I'm not watching golf.
I had another thing that you reminded me of. I don't think we've talked about it. I've been seeing some really weird ads, but did you see that NBC, instead of running a horse race, they did a virtual race of all the Triple Crown winners? I'm pretty sure I didn't make this up, and it just happened. Like, for the Kentucky Derby, I'm pretty sure we missed talking about it, because I don't think we've ever talked about the Kentucky Derby on the show, but they did an all-time, and they based it off, I don't know how they did the data, but Matt, wouldn't the data just be the time of the speed of the horse? So couldn't they just take the time historically and know which horse was the fastest? Or does it not work that way anymore? I was wondering, they had all these data points, and I thought, wouldn't you just take the average of all of their races and that would be their time in this digital horse race? Why make it so complex? Or do horses are they all faster now? Because that would make me curious. Because they always talk about how athletes are faster now because they lift weights and they have better training and nutrition. Is that true for horses? So could they not do that?
My thinking would be yes.
I think horses now are faster. So the worst horse could go back in 1910 and win the Triple Crown. You're going to go on the record with that?
Yeah.
I have zero information to back that up. I just know that I think it was, and I hate to spoil a fake race for you, but I think it was American Pharoah. Like the horse from the 1970s. I don't even know anything about horse racing. I was like, why am I getting this in my timeline? Why is this being shown to me? And it was an ad for NBC. And then the other thing was an ad for Dale Earnhardt. Speaking of racing, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt, he's a smoker and he quit. It's very tough for him.
Did he use Chantix?
No, I think he used... Oh, no, he did use one. It was like an ad for whatever he used. But I don't think... I want to say it could have been Nicorette, but I don't know enough about smoking, quitting stuff, to know that what he used or not.
So you're saying you're not a quitter. So if you're smoking, you're still...
It could be. I have zero idea. I don't know. I mean, honestly, we've been talking about keeping the shows shorter, and I've been trying to, but I just honestly don't have anything this week. I just want stuff to start back up. So do you have anything for the final bell?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. We want to get things back, but we appreciate the people that are still tuning in and supporting the show, even during quarantine.
Yeah, we're going to keep it going. And, I mean, if we have to go short like this, I know there might be some NASCAR stuff back. I just don't want to pivot the show heavily. We're a football show, and sometimes we talk college, talk some baseball, Major League Baseball and hockey and basketball, but it'd be weird for us to just talk an hour of golf or NASCAR or UFC or something that we normally don't hit on. So we're not going to be a fake show. We might just talk about it because it's the only thing on right now. But hopefully things are getting back. Hopefully we get some new news, too, on Ben Roethlisberger. Is he actually throwing the football? Is he handing it off? Like, what's happening in these videos? I want to know. I want to get to the bottom of it. Keep an eye on. Go to southboundsports.com. We'll be bringing that up. I'm trying to put some extra work into it since we don't have a lot of sports going on the weekend. So get that spun up for the next football season. Hopefully it starts on time. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.